So the advantage, we wanted to draw a little bit of a comparison on what is actually in a flexi tank compared to a dry container, because when we're talking about how can we save cost in the bulk supply chain, well, I assume that we're talking about how can we look at transformation from the case goods business into the bulk business, and what's the savings and what's the benefits, right? So when we look at case goods business, you load a 40-foot container, you have 21 pallets, then you ship about 10,500 liters of wine. This goes from the production, bottling at origin, it goes into a container, we ship it, and it arrives to the market. If you look at the bulk wine shipments, well, it goes straight from production into a flexi tank, and we ship it in big volumes, and then it arrives to bottling facility at destination, and then it goes to market. Here we load 24,000 liters. So obviously, in one movement on a vessel, there's a big optimization here in terms of capacity. So we see this is very, very common. I think Damien was talking about the Australian wine market, that it's kind of got commoditized 10, 15 years ago. 67% of the volumes out of Australia that goes to UK, which is the biggest market for them, is bulk. So this is pretty significant. You don't have the same market shares on case goods versus bulk to the US, and there's different reasons for that, but it is becoming a really big player in the industry, and we're very integrated in it. So we took a look at how much does it actually cost to move a flexi tank from FOB Spain to door delivery in Napa. So all-in cost, $4,750. This includes the transportation, the flexi tanks, the custom clearance. So this is 20 cents per liter. So this obviously, you have certain costs at destinations in terms of bottling and storage. But then when you look at the cost to move a container, well, to reach the same amount of liters for the same move internationally, you have to move 2.3 40-foot containers at 40 cents a liter. So it's half the price. So what does that really mean? Well, for us, this is just a comparison, it's a benchmark, but then for you guys as customers or producers or the owner of getting the product into market, you have to decide if this is the right strategy for the brand, right? So there's definitely pros and cons in this type of business. So we were talking about the big box supermarket chains, private labels. This is what you see a lot in the bulk market. You have the opportunity to drive big volumes, you can create private labels, you can react fast in terms of blending and adjusting private labels when you have big volumes close to your supermarkets. So this is what we see. You can also add it to your local blends in terms of you have an American Cabernet Sauvignon, you can still add 10% of a certain grape from another origin, right? The tax advantage is something that is bigger in certain countries than others, but here you do pay a lower tax when you import bulk versus case goods. So this also has a benefit for you guys. One of the disadvantages is the geographical bottling point in the US, because when you look at the US today, it's very, very heavily dominated in California. You have a lot of facilities out here that can store bulk wine, that can bottle bulk wine, and you can do different things. It's very different on the East Coast. You don't have as many qualified facilities that can really take a really big brand, take it in, bottle it, and distribute it. If you look at a brand like Yellowtail, it's probably one of the most popular brands out of Australia, is still moving in case goods. Because majority of the market is in New Jersey and New York, so they don't have a bottling facility there. There's also other political reasons in terms of the supplier, et cetera, because there's a whole supply chain, right? But in the US, the bottling is dominated by California. So you also have to commit to 24,000 liter to make this cost beneficial. So a lot of people have asked us lately, well, can you do a tank that's 10,000 liters, or can you do maybe 12,000 liters? We can, but it's much more of a spot business then, because when you look at the whole industry, the concept of shipping bulk wine is to maximize the payload up to 24,000 liter. That's what we can move legally on the roads. So this is what everybody wants to do to get the cost down per liter, right? So this is also when you look at equipment positioning. We have to put equipment in Italy. We have to put equipment in Australia to be able to load in accordance to your forecast. If you guys suddenly want to use 12,000 liters, 13,000 liters, then we also have to produce them and we have to put them into the market, which means that's probably 8 weeks out. So, and then you also don't get the same savings in terms of cost per liter. We've seen this happen because there was a gentleman over here earlier that mentioned bulk wine transport is no longer just an economical wine. It's not a cheap wine. It's quality wine. I think 7, 8 years ago, we saw juice moving at 20 cents a liter. That's the commercial value of the wine. Today, we see juice moving at $3, $4 a liter in flexi tanks. So the industry has changed. The perception of the flexi tanks has also changed from a winery perspective and from a winemaker perspective because it's been accepted. And the quality, when it arrives, is pretty much the same as when it loaded in origin. So when you compare it to the packaged product, then packaged product is premium market. It still is because there is a certain brand recognition. I don't think you're going to see a Chateauneuf du Pape in a flexi tank within the next couple of years because there's a certain image about that product. So we do say that it's the premium market. You also have the E-State bottle authenticity, which is important for certain brands. And then you do have supply chain flexibility because if you have a small premium product and you need to ship 1 pallet to 10 different states, then it is more cost beneficial to move a container to New York and spread it out to the different states. So we work with big companies, we work with small companies, but when you look at the bulk business, really the top 5 guys almost represent 80% of what's moving in the market. So a little bit similar to what John was mentioning, as you see the top 10 wholesalers in the US, they represent 75 to 80% of the business. It's the same in the bulk business. But that is changing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So packaged product, you have higher transport costs, you have a longer lead time when you're looking at getting to market because you got to wait for the wineries to put your back labels on, your colas, et cetera, et cetera.